Hello and welcome. Another edition of Coach's Corner. Every single week, we take a few minutes. We try and reach out to coaches. It's a busy time of year with college recruiting, but today we're going to talk a little bit of Conference USA and Louisiana Tech. You know, Louisiana Tech back when I was living in Louisiana, a couple guys that you might have heard of, Terry Bradshaw. Those types of athletes have come from that school. Great baseball tradition, but we're going to talk to assistant coach, pitching coach, Cooper Fouts. And Cooper, I'm really looking forward to talking with you today about Louisiana Tech and Conference USA.
We greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here and to talk about Louisiana Tech and what we think is one of the better programs in the country and just the opportunities we have to give young men and their families. So we're greatly appreciative of the opportunity.
You know, I want to start there. It's probably one of the best baseball schools that a lot of people from outside of Louisiana and Mississippi don't hear a lot about. But having lived in Louisiana, I know an awful lot about, Louisiana Tech football, basketball, baseball, but baseball has always caught my eye. And as a coach, you've been around, you've been at Pepperdine, Utah Valley State, and obviously Purdue. What was so appealing about Louisiana Tech that made you want to go there back in 2022?
Yeah. First of all, the opportunity to work with Coach Burrows. I had known Coach Burrows since he was at Mississippi State, and I was coaching junior college in Southern Nevada. So we'd had a relationship since then, and I'd actually reached out to him a couple of times about some other jobs, and he had some guys he already had in place there. And so when that job came open here with Coach Silva, originally going to Nicholls State, reached out to a mutual friend and said, "Hey, if Coach Burrows has any interest, I'm in. I think it'd be an unbelievable opportunity." That was the first real interest point for me, but the biggest piece, I think, now that I'm here and I've been here for 4 years, enter my fifth year, is just how much baseball matters in this community. I think that's something that is super attractive, and it was to my family and I from the different places we've been at, which was wonderful. But I always felt like baseball was a little bit on the back burner at those schools, and the opportunity to be in a place where baseball mattered and the community, rallied around baseball, and certainly the opportunity to be part of a successful program coming off of 21 that they'd hosted a regional here in Ruston the first year of the stadium. And so all those factors were immediate draws for my family and I. But just the opportunity to be around great people that you want to work with in a great community, and always wanted to be down south. I think the draw to be down south where the baseball can be year round, where the athletes are really good, and the opportunity to recruit to a place and develop at a place like Louisiana Tech.
You know, Ruston, Louisiana, we hear a lot about schools in your neck of the woods, whether that be the Purple and Gold at LSU, the Green Wave at Tulane, Southern Miss, and so forth. Talk a little bit about what makes Louisiana Tech, especially Ruston, Louisiana, what makes that campus so special for a potential student athlete?
Yeah, well, I hit it on a little bit. Certainly the community, the opportunity to be where baseball is such a driving sport here, where our fan base, we've sold out season tickets 9 years in a row, and this year will be 10. So that's the immediate factor. I think it's also the opportunity to play high level competition, whether it is the LSU in the midweeks or Arkansas or Ole Miss, and to be able to play those teams that are surrounded by us in the SEC, and certainly the Big 12 teams we played, and it's that high level of competition. I think it's also the opportunity currently to play in a conference that I think people kind of underestimate. I mean, Conference USA has been really, really good. We were number 5 in the nation last year in RPI, and so we were right behind the 4 Power Fours as far as RPI was. And so that is a huge draw as well. I think the other piece is, especially here in Ruston, and what Coach Burrows has built, it's the opportunity to be valued. We desire to be loyal to our players and our players to be loyal to us. And when we talk about this with recruits, we give them this example of, in the 4 years that the portals really existed, that's been very, very heavy. We've only lost one player that has been a contributor for us in 4 years. And that includes All-Americans. That includes all conference guys. That includes guys that are freshmen of the year this last year with Brooks Robertson. I mean, those guys could easily go to a lot of places, and they choose to stay because they know they have a home, they know they're valued, and they know they're loved. And I think that's something that a lot of young men are looking for, and their families are looking for, especially with all the movement the portal creates, to find a place that constantly has their team coming back and is not worried about the in and out that you're bringing in, 20 to 25 new guys every year. And certainly some years you have to because we graduate our guys, but it's the opportunity to come in and develop, to be valued and know you have a home.
A lot of parents that I speak with, on that topic of portal and things of that nature, the whole DSA designation has some parents mystified. Student athletes, should I be a DSA? Is it a big deal, bad deal? Can you just talk about this is kind of a temporary thing, over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, that's going to kind of slowly, you know, leave the roster situation. But with the rosters being reduced, it does make your recruiting with regard to each individual year, a little bit more important with both an eye on development with the high school guys and obviously with the JUCO guys and the portal guys. So talk a little bit about that DSA portal dynamic with regard to Louisiana Tech.
Yeah. So our administration's been so awesome to us. I mean, they've been so supportive, and they've backed us 100%. And so when we got the ruling about the DSAs and kind of our decision process and who we were going to DSA and how that was going to go, our main decision process was first and foremost what was best for our student athletes.
Right.
We kind of went through the process of, what guys maybe need to be protected by this, and what guys do we want to protect with this DSA. And that's the way we viewed it. I think you can view it a lot of different ways, but our viewpoint was, how can we protect our players, whether it's a guy coming off an injury that maybe he didn't play much last year because he was injured or didn't play at all, and we weren't sure how he's going to come back, or young men that were coming in the program as freshmen that, in today's world, we've got 4 returning guys that from the Diego Pavia rule that we, at this time last year, we weren't going to get back. And so when those kind of guys decide to come back, obviously you're taking those guys back every time when they're contributors. And so when we had the opportunity to look at our roster and how we're going to DSA guys, our main focal point was, how can we protect either our incoming guys from, being eliminated by that 34-man roster first and foremost, and how can we give them more time to develop? And really, I think there's a misunderstanding with that rule, because it could be looked at as, well, now I'm thought of less. Well, I don't think that's the way we approach it, for sure. And it's really the ability to give those guys more time to develop into the program and not feel like, man, if I have a bad fall, or if I have a bad week, or if I get injured, well, I'm automatically gone. Well, we don't want that. We know how hard this game is. And so our viewpoint was to protect our players, and give our guys as much opportunity throughout the fall and certainly throughout this year to develop, but also to prove to us they can help us win. And I think that gives them a little bit more freedom and not feel like they're so overwhelmed in the fall. So that's how we went about it. I can't speak for other schools and what their decision process was, but that's where we started with it. And like I said, our administration was really good in understanding that, and backed us up on that point as well. So we're thankful for the DSA rule, because we've heard about how the roster manager was going to go for a year now, and nobody really knew. Even when the DSA rule came out, there really wasn't any clarification who could be or who couldn't be, or what that looked like. So we were thankful for the rule. It gave us a little bit more freedom in our roster. And like I said, it gave us the opportunity to protect some guys that, like I said, either coming off injury or were young and unproven, to give them more time in the program and not feel like they had, a 2-month window to make the team. And if they didn't, they were gone.
Well, I think that's really great for parents to hear. I think there's a lot of misinformation, especially with the Pavia rule. A lot of people think I can go to JUCO, my years won't count. I'll have 4 or 5 years at the NCAA level. It's a one-off. It's just a one-off. It pertains
That's
to,
right.
And so I think it's good for clarification. Let's kind of turn gears here, twist. And I really want you just left the Futures game over at Lake Point, and you're out there watching, and you are one of the premier pitching coaches in the country. And when you're out looking at those types of high school pitchers, what's capturing your attention first? Is it the velocity? Is it the location? Is it the secondary pitches? What is it that you're looking at when you're trying to evaluate potential fits on the bump at Louisiana Tech?
Yeah, I think the first thing we noticed was just how many more high-level players were at the Futures games, because 2 years ago, the rule that came into play that you couldn't talk to young men until they were, going to be juniors August 1st. So that rule has kind of trickled through now. It's gone through 2 years to where now you're seeing, most states that we recruit from, all of their, I guess, higher rated guys or recruited guys, whatever you want to call them, they're all still open. And so that's opened up more doors because of that ruling, which is awesome for us. So I think we're seeing higher level people even at Futures. I thought that was the best year Futures has ever been for the 8 or 9 years I've been to it. So that was awesome for us personally. I think we can wrap all those things you said into play, whether it is the velocity or is the stuff, it is the ability to throw strikes to command. For us, one of our highest priorities is the way guys move. I mean, and I say that all the time to our guys and even to our recruits. Just for me, my eyes always turn towards how their bodies move, their athleticism, their ability to repeat their delivery, the ability to do stuff easily without, I guess a max level of intent and effort. I think effort always gives you a little bit of concern, just, kind of what their ceiling might be, or certainly the injury risk. And so for us, it's a combination of all three. And I would say this at Futures, there was so many guys that showed stuff. I think there was real stuff and guys that could pitch. And I think guys know how to pitch more. I think they're more intelligent now. They're more intelligent on what their stuff is, whether they're a sinker slider guy or a high vert guy, and where they're pitching in the zone, and they're pitching more to their strengths than they used to because they're more knowledgeable. So I think we saw a much higher level of that this last year, which is great because guys, when you talk to them, they start to understand, hey, I'm a low release height guy with vert, which is an anomaly. It's great. Or I'm a guy that has high vert and I need to throw the ball at the top of the zone. Or, hey, my breaking ball is more north and south and I don't need to throw a sweeper. And I think those things are great because young men are so much more educated with the processes and the people they're working with. So, but for us, it always goes back to how guys move and their ability to repeat their delivery, their ability to be athletic. I think that's something that is a high priority for us, one. And I think the other piece is the ability to command the baseball. I think it's so crucial for us to identify guys that can actually pitch, that aren't throwers, and that have the ability to manipulate the baseball a little bit, whether it's a changeup or a breakable or hopefully a combination of both, and they can throw that stuff in the zone. That stuff is getting so much more publicized, and guys are such at a higher level now than what they were 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So that's what caught my eye. And again, the ability to pitch, the ability to command the baseball, I think the ability to know your strengths and know how you can get guys out rather than just rearing back and throwing as hard as you can and it really not showcasing your ability to pitch.
One of the dynamics that a lot of parents are asking me about is if a student athlete has a full high school season, regardless of where they are in the country, and then has what I call a full summer, whether that's on a travel team, a Legion team, or so forth. Would you agree that there needs to be a rest, replenish, recover kind of time period in the fall? You can still play catch, but this whole dynamic of trying to play as a high school athlete from February through November, without proper, rest periods, without proper nutrition, strength, things like that. Can you just talk about the importance of listening to your body and the replenishing and recovering period for young pitchers, especially?
Yeah. It blows my mind how many guys we talk to that they say they throw maybe, 40, 50, maybe 60 innings in the spring. And then you talk to them in the summer, and we all know their summer schedule. It's, once you get to about mid-June through August, it's crazy. And really about this time of August with area codes and stuff going on, it's just insane. So the amount of times they not only pitch, but the amount of travel time they have and the amount of time they miss whether it's a weight room session or a long toss session or just the lack of a weekly programming. It blows my mind how many guys go through that, and I'm almost begging them to go, like, hey man, are you taking a break? And guys say, yeah, I'm going to take 7 to 10 days off. I'm going, God, you need to take 3 weeks to 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks
Right.
off. I mean,
Right.
crazy, because even our own guys, and I say that all the time with our guys, if our guys are throwing, they go through the fall. And then we deload them in November. We bring them back in December. We have the January buildup. And let's say we're done, God willing, the middle of June. Those guys are not throwing a ball for a minimum of 21 to 28 days. I mean, not touching a ball at all. And some guys like to just throw the ball twice a week and keep their arm moving. And I get that. But I think the ability to stop and the ability to give your body the time to recover is, if not the most, it's one of the most crucial things a young player, not even a pitcher, a young player can do. And I'm always a big fan. And I think we as a staff, when a guy goes, yeah, I'm going off to play football, or I'm going off to play basketball, or I'm going to do this. And I'm like, thank heavens, because that means you're not throwing a ball. You're getting away from the game. And for us personally, we need a break as coaches. I can only imagine what our guys are going through and their breakdown, their bodies. So I think it's the most ill-advised setting a guy could have, that he doesn't have a true shutdown period. And we talk about the injuries, and you see the injuries in professional baseball and how they're increasing. And yes, there's 100 factors, and there is, but you're seeing in college baseball, it's always a trickle-down effect, and you're seeing in high school baseball. I think the ability to just say, hey, I'm not going to throw, or the ability to tell somebody, no, I'm not pitching, or no, I'm not going on this trip, it's crucial. And I think that's where guys miss the boat so often. And I would just beg and plead for guys to go, hey, if I plan my 12 months of a year out, I'm going to give myself this 6 weeks where I'm not going to throw, or I'm not going to throw for 3 to 4 weeks, and I'm going to build myself back up properly, whether it is for that fall season or whatever it's going to be. And so like I said, I would beg and plead for guys to look at their 12-month programming, and you have to have a period of time to where you are not touching a baseball, or you're on that deload cycle. You're throwing 60 feet twice a week for 5 minutes just to have the arm move, whatever you want to do. And people don't want to talk about it, but it's the onset injuries. It's the injuries it's not the one pitch that caused the injury. It's the stuff you did for the 12 to 18 to 24 months leading up to that one pitch that caused the injury. And here's the thing. We've had one Tommy John in 4 years at Louisiana Tech, and we take great, great pride in that. And I don't know what the national average is, but I know it's a lot more than 1 in 4 years. And that goes back to our testing cycle with Dr. David Zemansky and our training staff, and Chris Watson on our strength addition and analytics. But we take a great amount of pride of keeping our guys healthy. And the one thing we stress, and I would stress this to young men, the development piece that everybody talks about and everybody wants, it's irrelevant if you're hurt.
Amen. One of the things that I would love for you to discuss, because I've been at a few conferences that you've spoken at, but just talk about catch play, specifically as pitchers. I think a lot of young pitchers think everything has to be a bullpen or a short box, or I have to throw off a mound. But in reality, the great pitchers of our, college and professional levels, they're getting a lot of work done on just playing catch with their throwing partner. Typically it's a pitcher with the pitcher. But can you talk about the need for young pitchers to really increase their competitive levels of catch play as far as grip work and things like that?
Everybody thinks that all the adjustments happen on the mound. And I
Right.
think that's the farthest thing from the truth. Your adjustments and how you play catch is so crucial. And our ability to play a really programmed catch and have a real good plan is the most important part of our program. And I think the other thing, you have to listen to your body, you have to listen to your arm when you're doing that. So for us, like I would tell you, and I tell our guys, we have a 7-day cycle. So, so when Sunday hits, they know what their entire week looks like. And their lifting is always based around when they touch slope. And we beg and plead our guys to touch slope all the time without throwing a baseball, whether that's with core velo, or that's with med ball, or that's with dry runs, or that's with plyo. That doesn't matter what we're doing it with, but that's all a leading byproduct into our catch play. Our ability to play catch at a high level is the most crucial thing we can do. And it all has to start with a plan. And for us, and I'm terrible, I tell you that, I always lean towards the athleticism and how guys move. It's our lower half, it's our feet, and how we produce force in the ground up that takes stress off our arm, where the arm is the finisher of the product and not the max effort and the piece of the product that's producing everything. And so for us, the catch play is crucial, and our ability to play catch with our changeup, the ability to play catch with our breaking ball, and to do that in an athletic setting, but to understand what that level of intensity looks like is something, especially our young guys, they really have to work through that as the fall, because they come out, they're hot. They're throwing as hard as they can all the time, and then you see them break down a little bit and they build them back up. But the catch play routine, and one thing for me as a pitching coach, or just as a recruiter, as I've been for 20 years, is I love to see guys warm up and play catch. I love to see how guys move when they're not on slope, and how they're preparing themselves to get on slope. And for us, I don't think there's a more important part of our week than our catch play setting. And it certainly leads into the slope work and being on the mound, our bullpens and stuff, or a short box. But our ability to play catch every single day is a direct reflection of how we're going to perform in the mound. And I would stress it to guys, whether we're talking to guys you're talking to, our own guys, it's also how you do your plyo routine and how you warm up, and all the little things you create, the good habits, the bad habits you create with all those little drills you do, and being so mindful of that, and having a true plan, and don't be afraid to record it. put it on video, because we all think we know what's happening. But I mean, there's times where we show our guys on video what's going on. They're going, I have no idea what's happening there. I'm not practicing. I'm not trying to do that, but they just don't know, because those habits creep in, whether it's through their play routine or their catch play routine. And so the ability to be attentive and purposeful in all those attributes are certainly going to lead back to being on the mound. But to your original question, the catch play, I don't feel like there's a more crucial building process of not just arm health, arm strength. It's the ability to feel the baseball, to manipulate the baseball, and to know what your ball's doing. We encourage our guys every time they play catch to communicate with their partner, whether that's, hey, it's a good ball, it's a bad ball, or hey, this ball was doing this, or hey, that had really good spin, or that had poor spin, because that direct communication back gives us the ability to make adjustments while we're playing catch, instead of just playing catch to kind of check the box and say, well, I played catch today and I'm done.
Well, I'm a huge proponent. When I hear you talk about that, it fires me up, because I try to tell parents, if your student athlete cannot play
Mm,
catch, properly, how can you expect them to go out there on that slope at 60 feet 6 inches with the hitter in the box and a game in play and throw strikes? I mean, throwing strikes is something that you do while you're playing catch.
no doubt.
I'm so glad you were able to kind of really get parents to understand that. My last question for you is, are there a couple of core drills that you might suggest to those pitchers that are in high school now and they're, beginning to get into that super competitive mode, whether it's, the summer or trying to get into college baseball? What kind of drills can young pitchers begin to implement into their routine that will be able to carry into their careers as potential college student athletes?
Yeah, and so I'm gonna give a promo to Lance Wheeler and the Core Velo belt. If you told me there was one tool I could use and that's the only tool we could have, I would pick that every time. I believe our ability to work from the ground up, the ability to be synced up from our feet to our legs to our hips to our core to our shoulders, and then the release of the baseball all starts from that point. And so I would say the investment in the Core Velo belt is crucial. And invest in the program and watch the videos and do that stuff. I think that's crucial. I would also say, as you work from the mound, or you're trying to work in your throwing process, is an athletic throwing process. I think that's something that guys don't train enough. And we have an athletic throwing program for our guys that we do all the time. So, and that's something you can find with any real throwing program that you're in, whether that's tread or driveline, or that's going to be even online. You can find an athletic throwing program where guys are moving more athletic, whether they're creating quarterback moves or they're fielding ground balls or throwing it across the diamond. I just feel like our ability to not be trained as a pitcher, but to train our guys as athletes is crucial. I think the mantra of pitchers aren't athletes is crazy. I feel like our ability to take them out of that function and create some more athleticism is crucial. But that does start again in our throwing process, and not just playing catch to play catch, but having real intentful catch, and finding a way to create more athleticism and to throw on the run and to throw like a quarterback and throw moving your feet and throw like you're feeling a ground ball. I don't care if you're acting like you're throwing like you're an outfielder. I mean, throw athletically. That along with the Core Velo belt, for me personally, are two things that I think are so open, and anybody can do them. If you just want to invest in the process, invest in that time, I feel like those are two attributes that can really help your arm. I think you could become a lot better mover and take stress off your arm. And two, our ability to always work our lower half, whether it's in our drill process or our throwing process, and making our lower half the producer of momentum and force and direction, and just all that stuff is so crucial for us. So those are two things I would really stress with young men as they come in our program, or young men that are trying to improve, whether it's high school or wherever you're at. I think those are some things that anybody can do, that I don't think you have to be an expert. I think you just have to invest in that opportunity.
I couldn't agree more with regard to your being an athlete and not a robot. I really believe too many families are being led to believe that, you can take pitching lessons and you kind of
Mm.
grow older, but, we take the athlete out of the student and we really begin to think about robotic movement patterns, and they start to become too cerebral. Whereas if I'm a shortstop or I'm a third baseman or I'm an outfielder, all I know is I have to hit a cutoff or I have to make an accurate throw. And I really agree strongly with the whole being an athlete, especially as a quarterback. I guess my last real question for you is talk a little bit about your prospect camps. Is this something that Louisiana Tech kind of stresses now with regard to the fall, guys kind of winding down, but you want to get them on campus to, kind of see your campus, meet your coaching staff, and then evaluate them as potential student athletes?
Yeah, it is crucial for us. We've got a prospect camp coming up Sunday, September 7th. That's our really one of the fall. We don't try to overload people with 10 or 15 of them. We do, one in September, we do one in December, one in January, and then one in the spring. So we don't have too many of them, or I'm sorry, one in the winter. But our prospect camps are important to us. There's been very few camps that we've had in the 4 years I've been here that we didn't either try to commit a guy or offered a guy out of. And certainly in this period of time where you're just coming off the summer, you're coming off of futures, you're coming off of whatever it is, to where you're trying to get that next look at a guy or that second look at a guy. And not to mention, you're trying to have interaction with him. I think that is I don't want to say it's lost anymore, but boy, it seems like it's becoming less and less. I mean, to have an interaction with somebody, to have a better idea and to build a relationship, for us, the relationship is the most important part of the recruiting process. I think the ability to identify talent has never been easier because there is so much talent. I think it's the ability to identify the right player for your program. And so when young men come in, when they come to camp, it obviously shows interest, which is great. That elevates our interest because they know that kid's invested in interest in us. But it's the ability to communicate with them, to talk to them and their family, whether it's before the camp, the day before, or after the camp is over. It's the ability to have that interaction at camp and just to talk to them and see how they interact, or, maybe give them a cue while they're pitching and go, hey, Bobby, why don't you try this? And to see how they go with the cue, and are they coachable? Are they adjustable? I think those things are crucial in the evaluation process. But I would stress it to anybody that has interest in Louisiana Tech. It just gives us another chance to develop a relationship. And I think that's the most crucial part of our recruiting process, is to find the right men and the right families that we want to be a part of our program, and to ensure we're kind of marking off some of those red flags. So it's crucial for us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with regard to the relationship part. I think we've become too distant with recruiting services and showcase and tournaments, and we kind of just think of schools in a one-dimensional capacity. And I really think the rapport, the relationship, I strongly encourage student athletes that are considering Louisiana Tech, visit a practice, go to a game, go to an inner squad, go to, see how the team gels and how they interact with each other, not only the coaching staff, but with each other as teammates, because this is a 4 or 5 year family, for lack of a better term, that you're going to spend a lot of your time with over the course of those years. So I can tell you two things. Louisiana Tech, beautiful part of the country in Ruston, Louisiana. And the other part of this is the coaches there, they're elite mentors over and above being great college coaches. They're life mentors, and that's an integral part of the relationship part and development process for student athletes. Cooper, I can't thank you enough. I really am excited to be able to, visit you in the future, see some games down in Ruston. I really want parents to understand we're going to have all the camp information for Louisiana Tech, all of Coach Fouts' information, contact information, social media, contact points, things for you as student athletes and parents, for you to be able to reach out to Coach Cooper Fouts at Louisiana Tech. Cooper, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was awesome. Hope you guys have a great day.
Protein. Everyone says you need your protein, and I 100% agree. In 25 years in the nutrition industry, I believe it's the most important macro for overall health. From bone density to building muscle, from your hair, your skin, your nails, your overall immunity, protein makes the largest difference. Here at Core Vive, we give you the best, most important grass-fed whey protein plus collagen. A lot of people go and buy the grass-fed whey, they go buy the collagen, they put it together. We put everything together for you here in one simple pack. Whether that be throw in a gym bag or maybe mix it up in a water bottle in between your kids' game, don't run to McDonald's, don't run to the fast food. Get the protein in your kid's body, in your body, and you're going to see a difference in your overall health. So Core Vive is the best source of protein, your grass-fed whey and your collagen all in one.